Well, howdy, folks. This here is Bubba Bee. Well, we're here bringing to you, right straight into your ears, the Beehooligans Be Smart Weekly Podcast, episode 14. Now, if that's not exciting enough, just to have it as it is, I'm here to tell you now, this episode, these fellas here, is all about storytelling. They're going to tell you things about experiences and things they've done and things they've seen, and maybe even a thing or two they done made up. But they're having a good time, they're having fun. Hopefully you're going to have fun too. Now, one thing I do want to kind of remind folks of, all of these guys here, Big Bear and JP and Shaway and even that old Yappy over there, these fellas is professional beekeepers. They're apiarists. That's what they do for a living. Now, what they don't do for a living is podcasting. And they're out in the middle of the nowhere getting ready to start on doing a live bee removal, something like that. That's where they're at, so sometimes you're going to hear background sounds because these fellas are out there getting to it. They is working bees. But that's okay because it adds a little bit of extra character to the show, am I right? That's right. So y'all sit back and you enjoy and appreciate the ambiance of the background where these fellas are making things happen and getting bee work done. We're going to pass this right on off now to Big Bear and the fellas over at the Be Smart crew. Them Beehooligans, you know.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Beehooligans Be Smart podcast. We're having a lot of fun. We got the crew back. We're yappyless today, so we won't be able to have you hear what he's got to say, although I'm sure he'll make up for it the next time when he's here. But we want to introduce a new sponsor for Be Smart. B&B Farms in Council Bluffs has decided to lend their support and help us to get some resources and equipment and just kind of help us do what we're out here to do, is inform you, educate you, and entertain you. So we're working on making all that happen. So welcome aboard, B&B Farms. Thank you very much for all your support. We love having you here. Today we're going to kind of kick back and relax. I have had some people asking us, guys, for some funny or memorable stories of doing various bee stuff. So we're just going to see what you got that sticks out in your mind. But first, we're going to start off and say hey to, we got JP out there.
Hey.
There he is.
How y'all are?
JP's out on, you said you're out waiting to get some work done, right? So we're going to.
Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to open up a house so I can take a look at something.
It's a working man there. Now then we move from the working man down to Shawee. He's chilling down there.
Well, I'm a working man too.
You're working that chair real hard. I see that.
Well, I'm comfortable. This is my office.
Oh, I'm sorry. The office.
How y'all doing today?
Over way yonder east, we got Dean.
Morning.
Hey, Dean, you got that spiffy little audio spot there. You look like you got your own little studio.
Oh no, I'm not there. Can't you see? There's no gear behind me. I'm
no,
else.
About to say,
you got the lamp back there. That's right.
Yeah. I'm at assisted living today.
He's making things happen. And then, of course, down here in Bellevue, Nebraska, we got our own Anthony G.
I'm here with my dog.
And
you might hear Rocka every now and then. Yeah.
What's
you
your
might
name?
hear Rocka now and then.
Rocka.
Racca. Racca.
I see. Well, Rocka may have a little more input than you do the way you're going.
Well, I wanted to introduce Rocka to JP.
Oh. Well, when you was walking Rocka, JP had a lot to say. Hey. We know that. Oh.
Yeah.
Then in Virginia.
I'm gonna be back to you as soon as I can. All right.
All right, bud. Well.
Okay, I'll join up with you in a little bit. I got to run right now.
We'll make sure to
talk to you soon.
All
Just
right.
give me a few minutes. I'll be back to you. Bye.
Okay. Hey, all right, fellas. Well, we won't start with JP's talking about what he's got, but I distinctly heard when we were starting all this up, shall we say, he's got a dandy that he's got something he remembers really well.
I hope it's family friendly.
Oh yeah.
Well, don't make me put the explicit sticker on. I've been yelled at once for leaving an explicit sticker on accident.
No explicit. It's a rated G.
There you go.
You know, no problem. This is with my wife. You know, she put up with me and my bees and stuff a lot. So, but this was about I would say 3 years ago. I was catching swarms, and I had one in the backyard I put and caught the queen. I caged it and stuff, and you know they kept leaving the box, and they were laying in my trees, and then they would come on back. So I went ahead and moved the box on my back porch, which my wife really loves that when I have bees on the back porch.
They all?
So I was sitting there, and the bees swarmed out, went to my orange tree. You know, and about 20 minutes later, they come flying back into the box. So after they were doing that, my wife came out, and we was enjoying the evening. It was a nice, quiet evening, and the bees started. Well, she started complaining about the box being so close to the door and stuff like that. But you know, I told her that's their porch too. You know, but anyway, the bees swarmed out. And they flew all the way to my orange tree. And my wife said, well, you're not going to go get them? And I'm like, nah, I said, they can leave. I said, I've been trying to put them in this box. I said, but they just don't want to stay. So I just sat there. We were talking and shooting the breeze and stuff. And I just kept an eye on a ball in my orange tree. And when I saw it getting small, I knew they were getting airborne to come back. So I stood up and I hollered at them to get back in the box. And lo and behold, here comes the swarm of bees. All went right back in the box and stayed in there, you know. So I sat back down. I never said anything. And the wife was just looking at me, and she said, well, how that happened? I said, well, Bee, when you're the bee whisperer, you know, you're just a bee whisperer. And still today, I never told her that the queen was caged up, that I knew they were going to come on back, you know. So it was just, I wish I had it videoed to see her face when I told her and hollered at the bees to get back in the box, and they all just came right back in.
He's got his bees trained. Get back here.
Oh,
Nice.
And then after that, they never left the box.
Oh.
They decided they better stay, you know.
See, we get Shawee's bee training school. Teach him to sit, stay, return. Hey.
Yep.
Annie, you could take your dog down there. Have Shawee. If he could train the bees to do that, I bet you he could get Rocket there to do all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Rocket.
But, you know, I still laugh at that story every time I tell it, you know.
That's a good one.
It's hilarious, you know.
That's a dang good one. Dean, you got anything there? Did you have ready?
Yeah. I got a couple of good ones. One of my favorites was, I don't know, must have been 5 or 6 years ago. We were bringing some bees into Boston proper, into the city. I think we were putting some on the roof of the Intercontinental Hotel, and I think maybe the Fenway Victory Garden on the same day. And we had this 96 Honda Accord wagon, the rust bucket, full of bees. We had, I don't know, 6 or 7 nukes in there, and I had 4 people, all kinds of equipment, hive stands, everything was kind of shoved in. And at least a dog also. It was crazy. Not really that safe, just because there was so much stuff in the car. One of the nukes that I thought had a screen, that I thought I had stapled a screen on the bottom, I didn't. And so remember, this is a station wagon, so it's got that flat window on the back of the car. So I'm driving through. If anybody's familiar kind of with the Boston area, I'm driving through Fresh Pond, pretty much in front of the big Whole Foods in Fresh Pond, and all of a sudden I see the blue lights behind me. And there's tons of traffic. It isn't like there's nothing going on. It's rush hour. And so I pull over in the traffic, and I'm thinking to myself, oh shit, you know, I may have not paid my excise tax. Like, I'm trying to think like all the trouble I might get in because I didn't do something that I should have done. I mean, I knew I wasn't doing anything stupid in traffic, but you know, they usually run everything. And so as the police officer kind of started approaching the car, you know, they don't like you to get out of the car anymore. So I just kind of leaned out the window and just said that my car is full of bees. And when I told him that, he said, "Oh, that makes sense." And he explained that the reason that he'd pulled us over was because he had seen all the bees kind of plastered on the back window from the nuke that didn't have a bottom on it. And he didn't know they were bees. He thought they might be flies. And he thought that they might be flies because we might be transporting a corpse in the back of the station wagon. That was just great. But unfortunately, he also had when he was at the academy, he'd had a roommate who kept bees. So he started wanting to tell me these bee stories. And I had a car full of bees and people, and all I wanted to do was get them where they were going. But the last thing I wanted to do was to give him any excuse to say, "Oh, yeah, gee, maybe I ought to run your license while you're here." Not that I had anything big. I might have had something small going on. Anyways, he finished telling his story, and we were able to proceed and get the job done. But I'll never forget that being pulled over because he thought we might have a corpse in the back.
That's not something to happen every day. I had one actually similar with a cop where, everybody's heard the smoker story. I think every beekeeper's had it. You got a smoker going, you get a cop or somebody who pull you over. But I was bringing, I don't know, maybe about 40 nukes back from a location out in central Nebraska and bringing them back to Omaha with a buddy. We're in his truck. And we got these bees, and the boxes are good old boy boxes. So they're wood nukes, but they've got holes. I mean, they're like Swiss cheese, man. These things got holes everywhere. So we tried to cover what we could see. Bees, every time we come to a stop sign or a stoplight, the bees start clouding up and out. And then you start moving again, and of course they diminish back down because you're moving in the wind and all that. We got up to a little spot right up by Fremont, and this cop's behind us, and we had just come to the stop. So the bees aren't up and moving, right? Well, after we sit there, it's a light. I swear this is the longest light in that part of Nebraska. The longer we sit, you see these bees starting to get a little, they're coming up and they're flying up and about in the back of this pickup. And this cop, we're looking in the mirror, you see his cruiser backing up a couple of feet at a time. He didn't make that sound. I don't know who did that. But so this car finally gets like 10 feet back while waiting for this light to change. Then he decides, just as the light changes, he's going to turn his flashers on. So after sitting the whole time through the light, watching the bees and backing his car up, he waits, light turns green, turns his lights on, pulls us over, but he doesn't get out. He literally has got his arm out the window and he's flagging us to get out and come back to him.
So did you grab a nuke and walk back with it?
I come walking around there and I'm like, "What can I do for you today?" He's like, what did you got coming out the back of that because they were just low enough under the top of the container we had sticking up. So he couldn't actually see the nukes. He just sees these bees lifting up. So we explained what's going on. And as soon as he heard these were actually, bees and hives and all that, he didn't want nothing more to do with this. He realized that was the truth of it. He's like, "Just go. Just funniest thing, though. I'm like, this dude had nothing to do with it. He just wanted to make sure it was what he thought it was. And once we confirmed it for him, he's like, "Get out of here. I don't even want you in town." See the kind of fun, Anthony, you're going to have? I can imagine the experience. I want to hear the story you get taking new bees from here to Virginia. Is Anthony still there?
Oh, I see his lips moving, but I don't hear anything, Anthony.
Oh, we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him.
Poor Anthony.
Well, here, this is kind of interesting. One time we drove, this was, I don't know, maybe 2008. We drove down to Georgia and got some nukes. And we didn't have a truck or anything like that. So what we ended up doing was renting a cargo van. And we basically put the nukes with screen tops and screen bottoms. And we built these racks in the cargo van where we could kind of stack them so that there'd be airflow between them and they weren't totally adjacent to each other, blowing in and out. And this is something that everybody ought to do. Every beekeeper ought to do at some point, because we were driving back from Georgia. We had our winter coats on and we had the air conditioning on and we had a big fan blowing air into the back of the cargo van to keep it cool. But to keep it cool enough to keep the bees calm was uncomfortably cool for us. So we were always kind of riding that edge. But what was really interesting was kind of being enclosed in the area with those nukes with the screen tops and bottoms. Was that there was definitely a point where if we kept the temperature below a certain amount, the bees were conserving heat. You could tell they were clustered. You could kind of visualize they're clustered in the nukes, clustered in the comb, keeping the brood warm, keeping the cluster warm. The minute it goes above that threshold, they go from conserving heat to shedding heat. So we'd always be, we'd get the van cool, and we'd always be just, it's a 24-hour trip or something. We did it straight, and we just kind of nudging up the heat just to kind of be comfortable. But then all of a sudden, they're shedding the heat, and you could tell because the sound would change and the smell would change just on a dime. And you get the temperature just down past that amount, and all of a sudden they're clustered back and conserving the heat and holding that heat in. And that's one of those things that just kind of teaches you about how bees do things from a different perspective than you could possibly observe in the wild or just, doing normal beekeeping.
Yeah. You get to see them in them weird situations that aren't common at all. Well, we had one time, I had another one here. We was on the news. A buddy of mine a couple of years back had a news reporter locally. They wanted to come out and do a video. We were going to open up a hive and do an inspection. She was feeling pretty bold, and she had a cameraman. They knew they were coming to see bees. They knew we were going to open the hive, right? So they're all prepared. They're gung-ho for it. They're going to be on the news talking about bees, and they're going to be right there while we open the hive. We show up, and as he's setting up the camera, we go back. We turn our back from the hive because we point out, okay, the ones, there's like a row of about 5 or 6 of them there. We turn around, watch him set up, and we're talking to them, going on, doing their thing. We turn back around, and the hive that we had marked to inspect starts swarming. So, literally, they start emitting the swarm. They're kicking out, and they're building this cloud, raising up just over the hive. And this guy's just getting the camera on. So now he's like, so the lady's like panicked. Well, now what are we going to do? There's all these bees up and flying like this. I said, well, you get to video something that not many news people get to video. So we'll follow the bees, right? And they moved in about a northwesterly line about 30 yards. And there's this little row of small trees there. And they decide they're going to go about halfway up and land on a limb. Now, meanwhile, they're just kind of coasting. You know how that big swarm does when they're just hanging about 15 feet over the ground, right? They're just kind of moving in this great big old cloud. So we're walking with the bees. He's walking on the outside helping the cameraman carry all the gear, my buddy is. I'm literally in the cloud of bees. I'm totally surrounded by bees. Back then, my beard I had a real big full beard. They're getting in my beard. They're getting in all over. They're climbing all around. And it tickles. I swear it tickles inside my beard because they're climbing all around. They're not stinging me, but they're crawling all around. So this guy, I didn't realize. I thought he was just carrying the camera. No, he's filming. And she's asking me questions. And, of course, the whole time, I'm laughing like a maniac. So when it actually gets to the interview, the show that they showed on there, it looks like a madman on TV with bees completely surrounded. It looked like I almost had a bee beard. They're all over. And every time she asks me a question, I'm trying to get the words out and answer, and the bees are swarming. And I'm cackling like just a insane, And people turn around the next day and they're like, dude, what were you doing? I'm like, you're laughing, and we thought you were like mental for a while there. And I'm like, well, I guess in a way I was, because they were tickling me. Then we finally, we got to do the whole thing, and we got to show them, we cut them off the limb and carried them after they landed and all that. But they never showed any of that. They only showed on the news the part where I'm walking through this cloud of bees laughing like a maniac. Only on the news when they're there to show video you.
I'm gonna tell this one since Yappy's not here. This is a Yappy story. Every year we used to go to we will have Bud 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. I think this was the last one, Bud 8. This one last year, and I get there early and stuff, and the swarms are kicking in. So we go around, and matter of fact, like I drove up at Bud's house, they had one landing in this little bush in his front yard. So instead of going in to say hello to Bud, I went to the bees and catch the queen and box them up. Then I went inside and told him hello. But last year they had a big old swarm come out, and they landed about 6 foot in a tree on a branch at the end. Well, Bud said that, look, we're going to box them up, okay? The meantime, Yappy called and he said he was about 15, 20 minutes away. So we said, well, look, let's let Yappy do this. And Yappy's real gullible at this. He's all gun-ho excited, but, he just never learned how Bud's bees are. You just don't shake Bud's bees in a box without getting popped, So we sitting out there, and JP got this on video, everything. And boy, Yappy comes down the street, you can hear him a half a mile away blowing his horn, hollering with his music blasting, carrying on. Man, he comes out there, he's all gun-ho and excited, and he had the box set up at the bottom. He said, look, Yappy, got this bees you need to shake, Oh, man, we'll get this. And he shook them bees. And as soon as the bees hit into that box, he bent over and was going to look for the queen. And they started nailing him. Well, he didn't want to run or anything, so he was like staying there to, I guess to suck it up or show that he's not getting stung, but we know he's getting popped. We could see him. And finally he realized, I better get up and get away from these bees. And look, he must have took 30 stings, and we laughed. You just don't do that to Bud Swarm, shake them in there and get down. Them redneck bees are tough. But we laughed so much we had it set up and stuff like that. Then he come, y'all had this plan. Yes, sir, we sure did.
Oh, there ain't no hiding that. Yeah, I hear you.
Nice.
But Yappy took it. He took it like a pro, But we did, because even JP said when he was videoing, when Yappy was getting his stuff ready, he turned the camera to me and he said, what you think going to happen? I said, they're going to light him up.
I think we got Anthony back. Anthony, you back?
Yeah.
Yay!
Back.
All right.
Yep.
He's got his equipment working again.
Yeah, I was able to hear your stories.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a little while for that blue pill to kick in.
Dang. I do like Skittles.
Hey, the blue M&Ms taste best.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was wondering, Tony, when you say you had those good old boy frames or those good old boy boxes and you fixed them the best you could?
Yeah. By fixing
did you use duct tape?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, because most, I know a lot of good old boys, duct tape.
Oh,
they swear by it.
Duct tape, cover the holes over with duct tape. That's right.
Absolutely. Okay.
Hey, you got bees, you're trying to haul them back, 200 miles from where you got to go. And like I said, those things had so many holes in them. I mean, bless the dude that was helping us out, letting us pick all those bees up. But I tell you, I've never seen hives in that particular condition outside of somebody just ditching an old stash.
Yeah.
Well, I had a funny one. We did we were doing a presentation at an elementary school it was kindergarten through second grade. So these were really young kids. And they were terrific. They were paying attention. They had questions. I mean, it was really inspirational to be there. But we brought one of those Ulster observation hives, and it was a brand new one. Thought it would look nice to have a brand new one. Well, the screen on the bottom had a small leak, not a big leak, but a 1 bee at a time leak. And we're in this classroom. We got the principal of the school. We got these really young kids, and all of a sudden, I'm talking to these kids, telling bee stories, and I see that there are bees crawling out one at a time. And so I'm literally just as I'm talking, putting my hand down, grabbing the bee, taking the sting on the palm, and waiting for the next one to come out, because the last thing that I wanted was to have any of those kids get stung or even get scared. But I always check for bee tightness and check the bottom of the screen now for bees before I bring that anywhere.
Valuable lesson right there. How many stings did you end up getting in your hand, Dean?
Oh, a dozen or so. I mean, it was just they kept coming out one at a time, and I had to just grab them and take the sting, and crush the bee. There was no other way.
Yeah.
Now, see,
I could turn into a disaster pretty fast.
Yep.
Them Ulster hives are good for that. I had one where, because they come with the screen bottoms, and if they get they don't staple them right sometimes.
Yeah.
Coming out of the
I put an
factory,
extra. What I do is I just lay an extra layer of screen in there, and they're fine.
I've seen that happen. That's. I've never had it happen in the school, but I've seen it happen. Now I have had where people will take. It didn't happen to me. I watched another fella, and I about died laughing. This guy was so serious, and he was trying his hardest. He wanted to make a good presentation to this. This is like a community group kind of a thing. They're like gardeners or something, but he was trying to just desperately. He wanted to show he was a beekeeper and he was meant business, So he's got this hive as an Ulster hive, and we're outdoors. He sets everything up, and something happened where he bumped the hive. And just the shifting of the hive itself caused whatever gap to open up. So as he's talking, he's standing at this point in time in front of the Ulster hive. And the a steady stream of bees starts coming out behind him. And they're flying all around and around him. And these people are starting to get antsy, and they're dodging, and they're kind of starting to panic a little bit, and he still doesn't realize that these bees are shooting out from behind him. They're zipping out, and so he's just watching the reaction of the audience. And for the first, I bet, full minute, he thought they were reacting to him. He thought they didn't like his presentation. So he's changing up what he's talking about instead of turning around and looking to see what they're looking at. And more bees are pouring out of this box and just filling the air. Finally, they fill the air so much that he's starting to see them at the sides of his head. And he turns around and looks. By now, he's got this halfway size small, half the hive, half of the foragers are out now hanging around. And because he's standing right in front, now they're coming at him. So now they're chasing him away. He says he planned it. He ran the other way. He about tripped over the table, but he wanted to lead the bees away from the people. I'm like, dude, they've been coming out for about a minute, 2 minutes just while you were standing there. And by this time, everybody's broke up. They're all, panicking and fleeing, and it was chaos. But he meant well. His heart was in the right place, trying to be that presenter, It was. I laughed. I was dying in the background. I was waiting to help him load back up at the end. Is that JP back?
I'm back.
Hey, just in time. What's your story, Bubba?
Okay, yeah, I got a good little story. So, it's always advisable when you're starting out keeping bees to start with 2 colonies. And the reason being, of course, if one colony needs a boost, you can, take resources from the other colony. But if you don't have any resources at all and that colony's in trouble, let's say you went in and you killed the queen or whatever, and there's no eggs for them to make brood, whatever. Always good to have 2 colonies. So I had a gal call me some years back, and we talked, and she said she just wanted 1 colony. And, of course, I went over everything with her, and she's like, no, still, I just want 1 colony. I said, okay. So back then, I would get people's woodenware from them, and then I'd put the bees in it, and then get them the bees. So anyway, I had a little trouble getting a hold of her. Finally got her. I said, okay, I want to get the bees in your woodenware. I need to get your woodenware. So that took about a week. Finally got the woodenware, put the bees in it. I made several calls. About a week went by, and finally I got her, and she says, I'm more of a morning person. I said, okay, no problem. So I called her the next morning about 8 a.m., and she says, where I come from, it's considered rude to call somebody this early in the morning. I'm like, well, it's 8 o'clock. That's not too early, and you told me to call you in the morning. I said, she was giving me fits. She was just making life miserable for me. I was trying to help the gal out. I just wasn't making any progress. So she kind of ticked me off a little bit, and I said, "Look, let me just get your woodenware back." She's like, "Well, what about the bees? I need to get my bees." And my little philosophy that I try to live by: when you're angry, you're at your worst and at your best, kicked in. And I said, "Well, let me call you back." So we hung up the phone. I was kind of fuming. So called my wife, told her what happened. She's like, "Just be nice, be nice." I called my good buddy Alan Buckley. We call the bee professor in Atmore, Alabama. Same thing. Be nice, be nice. I'm like, man, y'all making it hard on me. But okay, I'm gonna be nice. So I called the gal back, and I said, "Look, I'll bring you the hive." "Oh, I appreciate that." So quick little detour. When we were talking about all this, she said she's got everything covered. She's been talking to people and knows what she needs to do. Blah blah blah. So we didn't have to go down that road. So I brought her the hive. It was 10 frame deep with about 8 frames of bees in it. It was booming pretty good. So, set them up, pop the top, showed her the queen, the eggs, what was going on in there. So we sit back, we watching the bees, and I said, "Do you have your other boxes ready to go?" And she looks at me, and she says, "I told you I just wanted one hive." I said, "Ma'am," I said, "in about a week, they're going to start making queen cells. Okay, they're going to fill this box up, and then sometime after that, they're going to swarm, and you're going to lose the vast majority of your bees." And her mouth just kind of dropped. I said, "I tried to tell you, ma'am. You said you had everything covered. I said, "Yeah, you can't just put them in one box, And I said, maybe pick up this little book. It's called Beekeeping for Dummies." and when it came out of my mouth, those words, I'm like, oh man, did I just insult this gal? Then I'm thinking, well, you know what? There's some meaning there, so I'm gonna let it stand where it may.
Some people call that karma, JP.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the best part of it all, Tony. The gal claims that she's a holistic healer. Okay. Yes. Oh. So I don't know what she's healing, but I think she needed some healing.
She said some vibes.
That's one I'll never forget.
Well, you got to be careful in the morning. Sometimes morning for some people is, like a very specific window, like 8 to 8:15. She just needed to tell you what morning meant,
Apparently so, man. Apparently so.
Yeah. Hey, that was the first book I bought.
What's that?
Beekeeping for Dummies.
Oh, yeah. Beekeeping for Dummies.
I've never bought that book. Never have. I read it like 3 times, but I've never bought it. But I live it? Is that what you're saying? Lived it?
No, you recommended it to me.
No, it's a good book. I just have never bought it myself. That's all.
Oh, okay. Good cover.
I thought you were trying to say, yeah, you don't have to buy it. That's your, life story. I'm like, well, depends on who you ask,
Yeah.
Now, see, Dean's
stories.
Dean's book, I thought, was the one that was a little more aggressive about it. It wasn't good enough to call it, for dummies. Dean's like for complete idiots. I'm like, they're just laying it all out there now.
Yeah, I got that one too. Oh crap!
Tony, you need to come out with one and name it. Just keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, really, exactly. I remember, this is a JP story. I don't know if you even remember this, JP. You called me one time. You were working on a house or a mobile home or something like that. One of them ones where you had beads under a floorboard by a toilet.
Uh-huh.
You called me to ask me what I was doing. And at the time you called me, you're like, now here's the background of the story. I'm up 30 feet on the roof of a house, taking bees out. I've got my hand in a hole. I'm hanging over the edge, so I'm laying on my side on the roof. The only thing holding me up on the roof from rolling down is the chimney. So I'm leaning against that. My hand's leaning down under the soffit. I'm trying to get and expose the where the bees are a little bit. So one hand is hanging down. I'm laying on the roof. And with the other hand, I grab my phone. My phone starts ringing. And I look at the phone. The name on there is JP. So I answer the phone. And here's JP. He said, hey, guess what I'm doing? I got bees under the floor by a toilet. I said, really? In the meanwhile, I'm laying on a roof with my hand over here. So you got one guy with his hand and his elbow deep in bees in the floor by, of a house, and another guy talking on the phone with his hand on a roof, reaching in, elbow deep to get bees out of there. Like, you couldn't get it to be just better timed. I couldn't imagine, and we're both of us, one hand full of bees and the other hand on the phone talking to each other, about where we're at.
Well, I guess
this was like, what, 2 years ago or a year, something like that? A year ago? I can't remember.
I don't remember exactly when it was, but I think telepathically I realized you needed a little break at that moment. So,
but I had what my son was standing there down on the floor on the ground level because he was being my little helper, right? So you got to remember my son, and he's standing there and he's got his and he's looking up. And he's like, "Can you imagine?" I could see in his eyes. He didn't say it because my son's respectful enough, but in his eyes you could see. He's like, look at this idiot laying on a roof, talking on the phone with one hand, elbow deep, playing with bees. Now, at the time, he didn't know I was talking to you, who was elbow deep in bees on the other side, But it's just like the look on his face told me everything I needed to know. That's why when Anthony said the whole beekeeping for dummies, I'm like, there's days I believe I fully live up to that potential.
Yeah, he was thinking you were kind of like the guy that was texting while he was crossing the railroad tracks,
I tell you what. But, you don't stop to think. You're just so used to doing that stuff that you just, hey, I got one hand, I'm on the roof. I've got one hand in bees, and the other hand, my phone ringing. Oh, it's JP.
Yeah.
Let me talk to JP.
Yeah. Well, I had to step out a few minutes, but did everybody get a story in?
Yeah.
Some of us got two of them in, except for Andy.
A couple.
Andy
never told us the story.
What?
Andy never told us the story.
Andy hasn't told us no story.
I'm just starting this journey out. So I'm listening to yours and developing my own.
I know you have to have a story with Tony now.
Not yet. We haven't really had a whole lot of fun yet. He caught me at the end of last year when he started. So we were just ending our season. So he's really just kicking up.
Yep.
Shall we? Is that you?
That's my house phone ringing.
Wait a minute. You said you were in your office.
At my house.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. It's the house office.
My secretary is answering it right now.
Is she going to fire you for calling her that?
Well, no, this is the answering machine.
Oh.
I wouldn't say it about my wife.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say, there's another story right there we're waiting to hear. We'd catch that one live.
Dude, that might have been a bee call, dude. You should answer that.
No, because it was it's a telemarketer.
Oh. Hey.
Man.
When it's an unknown phone call, that's what they are.
I've actually told people, I had one guy actually believe me one time where he was getting just I understand your frustration dealing with some people, JP, where I've had people, just kind of, they get to work in that nerve, and at one point in time, I've told this to a few people in joke, but one guy I told him, I said, you're about 2 seconds away from me dropping hives by your front and back door until you just think things over because you're about to cross the wrong line here. I told him I was going to bar him in his house by putting hives blocking his doors. And he believed me. He's like, well, wait a minute now, hold on. I'm like, so I was rolling. I had the guy going for like 10, 15 minutes just to, I'm going to know. I got the hives. I'm going to drop him off. And he was panicking already. He was like, wait a minute. These are the good tricks, Anthony, you get to pull on people. You get to, when you have bees, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. Like what Shawi was telling us while you were gone, JP, about he messing with his wife's head like he trained his bees to come back when he calls them.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of fun tricks you get, that good timing, and you make it look right.
Yeah,
I know people who actually believe that, though. Well,
I had a guy call about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. He had bees at his house, and he was going to tell me where they were at and stuff like that. And so I could come and take a look at them and see what you have and give you a price on it and stuff like that. He said, well, look, he said, what you going to do with the queen? I'm like, what you mean what I'm going to do with the queen? I said, when I finish, I'm going to have the queen and the bees, and I'm going to take them and set them up. He said, well, a friend of mine told me that I can get a lot of money for the queen. I said, you can? He said, yeah, that's what he had told me. He said, well, how much you willing to pay for a queen? I said, well, let me tell you this. I said, I don't buy queens. I make queens. He said, well, what you mean you make queens? I said, it don't cost me nothing to make queens. I said, why should I want to buy your queen? He said, well, my friend said that we could get a lot of money for the queens. He said, well, I think I'm going to go in the hive and get the queen out myself. I said, well, I would love to video that. Take a look at that. I would go in this hive, and they were in a floor joist, go get the queen so he can sell it and make a lot of money, But just some people would, would they come up with, JP had one, they want to know, he pulled on the side of the road and rolled his window down, and JP was doing a job, and JP told me, he said, well, the guy asked him, how much you pay for the bees?
I had the same thing.
To get the bees, JP?
It was actually a lady, and I was doing this job, and it was a hellacious type of thing. The bees have been there a long time. It was late summer, honey everywhere. So I was out the street taking a little water break or something, and she just kind of easing down the street. She stops even with me, and she rolls the window down. She looks out. She says, "Honeybee removal." She says, "I have two beehives in my house." She says, "What would you pay me to come remove them?" I said, "Ma'am," I said, "you got that reversed." I said, "It's a lot of work." I said, "You'd have to pay me to remove them." And she says, "Huh?" And she just moved on down the road, going about 2 miles an hour. I think I blew her mind with that.
I've gotten calls like that.
I had one that on Facebook page, when somebody had bees, they usually tag me or whatever. So I called a girl up, and she had them in her garage, and she asked, and it was a simple job. I told her $300. Well, she said, "Well, I'll get back to you." She posted on Facebook that I had the audacity
in your backyard
to charge her, wanting to charge her $300.
What's your name?
Hey,
Harold. Good to meet you, JP.
Wait a minute. JP doing business. We don't want to interrupt him.
I'm going to look at 1, 2, 3, 4 tires that are stacked up that have bees in them.
Oh, no. He's in the middle of it. We're live with JP.
I'm mixing a little business with pleasure right now, folks.
Hey, no.
Actually, a little business with pleasure.
Well, get back to my story, JP.
Sorry, go ahead.
She posted on Facebook that I had the audacity to want to charge $300 to remove bees from her garage. Then she put on there, well, do anybody have a bee suit I can use to get the bees out? So I typed on there, yeah, I have 2 bee suits. I'll rent them to you for $300.
I got a call. I don't know, just at the end of last year, just before I think Anthony started working with me. I had a fella call me up in a rural area. He says, "Hey, I hear you work. You get bees." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, how much you pay for them?" I said, "How much I pay for what?" He says, "How much you pay for the bees?" He said, "You want to help bees? You want to rescue bees, right? You want the bees?" I'm like, "Well, if it all works out, I'll keep the bees. I'll have the bees." I said, "But it's a service. We're doing you a service. It's work. You pay me. I don't pay you for me." He's talking to me like I'm a bounty hunter. I'm collecting this big trophy fee, for coming out and collecting these rare bees. I'm like, no, dude, you got this backwards. And he wanted me. I said, well, how? Just to ride along with the fella, I told him. I said, okay, wait a minute. I says, how much would you want for these bees? He said, I don't know. He says, the way I hear about things, he said, I figure, 100, 150 ought to be good. He wants me to pay him $100, $150 to do the work to get him out of his roof. I said, no, thank you, sir. I says, but when you're ready to have them moved so they don't tear your wall up and, cause a lot of structural damage, I said, you give me another holler. Well, I know there's people who do it for free. I said, you go, I'm sure there's somebody out there that'll be more than glad to help you that way, too. I'm like, then he wanted a referral to somebody who's going to do it for free. But I don't know anybody. Sorry.
Yeah, people don't realize it requires a lot of work sometimes to remove these bees,
I just was kind of floored. I really was, Some of them just are very entertaining when you get to it. Because he wasn't trying to be, some people you talk to on the phone, they get a little bit out of sorts about it, a little grumpy. He was sincere. He wasn't trying to be, a character that way. He really was
right.
earnest. That's what he thought, He wasn't trying to be disrespectful in terms of intentions. He really meant it. That's why I was like more amusing than anything. I was just like, okay, so without a clue.
Well, it's kind of cool. People who are a little skeptical, and then they hire you, and then they realize in retrospect what an undertaking it was, and their mouth drops. They're like, I had no idea. I'm like, I'm glad I called you.
Yeah, really.
And then you got the wives that call you. Like, please come over here. My husband, I know he's going to get killed by these bees. He's trying to do this and that. He's going to burn the building down. Please. They're begging you to come out to, you show up and it's like, she called you? Yeah, I came here to save you, brother.
Here to rescue you from yourself, man.
That's right. Oh, man.
Oh,
and they don't
hold
realize
on.
them little, go ahead.
I have a message from Yappy. He said to tell everyone hello. So Yappy says hello. He got the snot bug.
Yeah.
I like how he worded that. That's a good one. I'm going to keep that one in mind. He got the snot bug.
Well, I always say a happy yappy is a yappy yappy. So today he wouldn't have been happy. So
He's not such a happy yappy.
Too much. Yeah.
Well, you get to feeling better, Yappy. We're gonna keep our hopes up, keep our fingers crossed for you, and get all them snots out.
You wasn't too happy last night talking with me. We only stayed on the phone 20 minutes. Usually when he's happy, that's 2 hours.
Tell him chicken soup and a gargle with some honey.
Yeah.
Hey, how many of you guys have gotten the phone call about eating bees? You ever get that phone call? Somebody call up? I had somebody call me about 3 years ago. Dead earnest. He says, hey, I got a question for you. I'm like, okay, how can I help you? He says, can I eat bees? I'm like, what? He says, can a person eat a bee? I'm like, well, it's protein, I guess, but why would you want to? I said, you got the stinger in there. You get that stinger stuck in, you got to pull that out first, It's like, but why? I mean, what is this, like something, like putting croutons in your salad or something? What do you want to eat a bee for, He's just, I guess he was on a bed or something, maybe. I'm just trying to, that was just out of the nowhere. I've chuckled about that one ever since, just trying to figure out who's going to call to find out if he can eat a bee.
I actually had a British production company called Touch Productions call me, I don't know, it must have been 6-7 years ago. And there's this fella in the UK by the name of Fergus Drennan, and he's called Fergus the Forager. And he was coming to New Orleans, and they found my YouTube page, and they're like, we'd like to come to New Orleans. Well, we're coming to New Orleans, and we'd like to maybe remove a beehive with you and film that. And, he's a trained chef, and he utilizes, components of, whatever he's talking about, whether it be stuff growing on the side of the road or if it's a roadkill or whatever. And we're interested in maybe utilizing stuff from the hive. And they're like, well, what can you consume from the hive, other than, say, honey and pollen? I said, well, there's royal jelly and there's bee larvae. I said, I wouldn't eat an adult bee personally. They taste terrible. But the larvae I have tried, and there's not much taste to them, but they're high in protein and fat, so I can't see them not being an alternative food source. So guy came down, we filmed a bunch, and he went on, and I think he worked with a trapper, and they caught a raccoon and So we had this meal. It was about a dozen of us with our wives and everything, and he served like a 5-course meal, and he made pancakes that had drone brood in them. Because I told him, don't mess with the worker brood. They need the workers. I said, but the drone brood, go ahead. So yeah, I had pancakes with drone brood, and you couldn't taste them. They're kind of a neutral, taste, but
They were jelly bombs.
Yeah, that was the only one I can recall that called me about consuming bee larvae. But that was a neat experience, though. It was pretty neat. And you know why you try bee larvae, huh? Because you're scooping up, raw jelly. You might have a larvae in there. You're like, what's a larvae taste like? I guess curiosity gets the best of you.
I'm willing to bet, JP, there's only a handful of us that actually think that. I've done it too, so I can't say nothing, but I'm willing to bet we're in the minority there.
But looking at the raw jelly, the cells, and I said, man, that's creamy looking stuff. I said, I bet that tastes good. I'm thinking of icing on a donut or a cinnamon roll or something like that, sweet, I took my little tube and I scooped some out there and I put it in my mouth. That stuff is nasty. It's not sweet. It's terrible. But that's what I was thinking. Ooh, that looked like icing on a cinnamon roll. That got to be sweet.
I've had
not sweet at all.
Hey, since Shelby brought that up, it reminded me of a quick little story. We removed 3 beehives from the Wildlife and Fisheries main headquarters down in Venice, Louisiana last year, and as far as you can see, there was lantana. Okay. And I guess that's what the bees were making honey from. I guess that was the source, because that's all that was. I mean, you could see it, as far as you could see. Anyway, so first time we get into it, and I tried the honey. It was myself, Shawi, and the 2 wildlife guys. And I tried this honey, and right off the front end, it had a sweet taste, And then it was the weirdest thing. About 30, 40 seconds later, this really like burnt plastic taste kicked in. It was just awful. And I told all 3 of them, I said, this is what you can expect with this honey. Of course, they had to try it. And Shawi was the next one to try it. And I'm watching him. And he's like, yeah, ain't too bad, yeah. And I see his face starting to turn. He's like, oh, man. I'm like, dude, I warned you. And the other 2 dudes, they watched us do that, and they want to try it, too.
Well, did you ever see that cartoon?
Hey, I have one JP playing on me. This was years back.
I remember this one.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
JP, we always, taste this honey, taste this honey, taste this honey. I bring honey, he tastes stuff. He threw a bottle. He said, taste this honey. He threw a bottle of something. I took it and I poured it on my finger and stuck it in my mouth. It was dishwashing soap. He said, dude, I figured you would know. I said, well, it wasn't thick like honey, but, you had it in your truck and it's heated up. I figured it was real liquefied,
I didn't think he was going to try it because you could see the bubbles in it, I'm like, I almost stopped him, and I'm like, no, this is too good to stop.
And you've never trusted him again handing you a bottle, right?
Nope. It was in a squeeze bottle. It was the color of honey,
Yeah. The next 2 months that I talked to Shawi, I'll know his breath smelled really clean.
Lemon fresh, right?
2 weeks.
All right, fellas.
That's right. It did. All right.
Well, I'm sorry, but time flies when you're having fun, and I know I had a heck of a time today. We're already running up there. So, fellas, JP, you're going to get back to work, it sounds like.
Yeah, I just looked at some bees in a tire. It's not a big truck tire with like radial threads and all that, thank goodness. But they're going to have to be cut out, and I'm going to look at another one. I'm in Belle Chase, Louisiana, on the road. So I enjoyed it today, fellas.
Keeping it busy.
Y'all have a fantastic day, because I am.
Oh, yeah. Shall we? Appreciate it, man.
I'm heading to the camp. I got to go and open up some of these doors on our floodgates to let some water out. And then I'm heading to the camp next to us to have lunch with them, fried fish, and then I'm coming back and painting boxes and building frames.
High work. Andy, what you got on the board today?
Nothing. I'm retired.
He's retired. He's a retired fireman.
Y'all working men. No, I'm gonna make me some breakfast.
Yeah.
Breakfast.
My dog.
Lunchtime.
Yep. Me and
Well,
Rock are
there's
gonna-
breakfast if you're a retired fireman, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Cheesy eggs and kielbasa again.
There you go. Well, I know I'm gonna be in the same boat Shawwee's in. I've got hives to work on today to build, so I'll be keeping busy that ways myself. So I appreciate it. And one more time, I'd like to say thank you to B&B Farms for helping make these kind of podcasts and the future stuff projects we work on possible. And
Thanks, B&B.
B&B Farms. And
Count the bucks.
guys, what counts to see you next week? Same time, same B channel.